Hey, a bunch of weirdos. Welcome back to the Guitdiot Sessions, episode 3. I want to get started today with talking about something that is on the internet quite a bit, and that is the state of rock and roll. I see all sorts of things, different opinions, thoughts on, everybody keeps, for some reason, keeps asking, what's the state of rock and roll, and a lot of the answers that I've seen don't really make a lot of sense. I'd like to give my take on the state of rock and roll, and I'll also get to your questions. Thank you again for sending those in. Keep them coming, either in the comments or reach out to me on social media at the Matt Massey. So the state of rock and roll. First of all, I think the answer here is pretty obvious. The state of rock and roll should actually be a combination of 4 different states, and that would be Nebraska, Iowa, Kansas, and Missouri, because of its central location in the country. We can turn up as loud as we want. A few different things will have to be repurposed. All the farms that I assume are in those states, those will all change over to strictly make leather pants. There's going to be some changes to some laws. The schools will work a little bit differently there. We'll have to have extra remedial classes for drummers. Obviously, the governor is Ozzy Osbourne. Roadies will teach classes on the importance of lifting with your legs. For those of you who like to exercise, the cardio is basically you just dressing up like a beetle and running from a mob of other people. Chief of police is probably going to be the guy that tackled that guy that jumped on stage with Corey Taylor. The workday doesn't even start until 12 o'clock in the afternoon. Hey, you want to move to one of these states but don't want to give up your boxing class? We've got classes on circle pits. Every state has those town rivalries. We'll have a lead singerville and a guitarville, and their rivalry will be about who gets more songwriting credits and stage time. Of course, we'll also have a dad rockville. This will be where they play the Foo Fighters constantly, and the volume's just a little bit lower. Of course, the town that everybody hates is going to be Poserville, for all the Imagine Dragons and Maroon 5 fans. So this is what I think about the state of rock and roll. Please feel free to add yours. What would make the state of rock and roll the greatest state in the nation? Alright, so let's get to some of your questions. So Colby from Texas asked, what is your second favorite hobby besides playing guitar? So really, there's not an activity that I have that's my favorite thing, or a hobby that I do. I don't work on cards or build shit. So the hobby that I would have would be going to different things. So mostly going to sporting events or concerts will probably be my second favorite thing that I do besides playing guitar. Colby from Texas also asked, do you name your guitars? I do not. That's something that I've never been, for whatever reason, I've just never been into naming stuff that I have. I don't name, I never named a car. And I don't name my guitars. Colby from Texas also asks, are any of your songs about your super hot wife? Yes, Erin August was written for her. So no lyrics to that one, but I thought it was a pretty song. I was thinking of her when I wrote that one. Chad from Texas asked, what method or inspiration do you use to keep each new solo sounding unique? So I talked a little bit about pattern usage in my approach to solo video, episode 2, I believe. The pattern usage is going to be really the key factor here. Now, paying attention and learning a lot of different guitar players, especially ones that solo quite a bit and sound different from the next guy. What I mean by that is, I won't listen to a guitar player who was super heavily influenced by another guitar player, and their solo style kind of sounds the same. So I try to find players that have unique soloing styles, and actually learning their solos kind of triggers new ideas. When I'm not listening to a specific artist and I'm trying to just kind of come by it organically, a lot of it is making sure that remember back to what I've done in the past and making sure that I don't repeat at least as much as possible, anything that I've done before. And then also trying to find new ways to play the same pattern. So there's a lot of different things you can do with a pattern in a particular riff. You can play it slower, you can play it faster, you can kind of change the notes a little bit, and I'll show you a little bit of that in my video that wasn't part of the Guitdiot Sessions, but was how to jam during quarantine. You'll see that there's a little bit of solo, part of that solo where I it's kind of a classic soloing riff, just really sped up and kind of changed a little bit. So the riff in general, if you listen to any number of classic songs, is the so I look at that as a pattern, and then from there I will go through and kind of change how that pattern's done. So instead of having that little bend, note bend at the end, I'll take that bend out and just hit that note without bending it. In order for that to work and sound pretty good, I basically speed it up as fast for that particular solo. I sped it up as fast as I possibly could. So that takes the bend out. It's still playing the same pattern, just kind of changed it a little bit there at the end. Also in that same solo, I move up and within the same scale, different notes, different area, but the same pattern is being used to create a different sound. So the switch is so that's one of the main things that I do, and you can do any number of different things by just kind of changing the pattern up of what you've done before. So even spreading that out. So again, staying really in the same pentatonic or blues scale. I've expanded out a little bit. With those two, you can do. So again, same pattern. As far as the notes are, especially in the right hand, everything is the exact same. It's just kind of switching up the notes within the scale, playing them a little bit differently. You can also one thing that you'll notice is starting in a different spot will change the overall tone. Instead of starting on the E string, the high string, is to start with the top of that pattern. So variations on the pattern or different ways to play within the same pattern is really the best way I've found to keep the solo sounding a little bit fresh. So again, with that one you can do any number of different things with that. So like I showed, switch the strings. And I'll do that with any sort of simple pattern. If you don't want to just run up and down scales, some of the scale pattern stuff that I do when I'm doing finger exercises or warming up or playing scales is instead of just going straight down, is to kind of switch that up and mix the notes up a little bit and play the pattern different. So that's another thing that can be applied. Also, another thing that I like to do quite a bit is dime bag riff, because it's really off of the Cowboys from Hell solo, is where I initially kind of learned the pattern, which is a quick, start on a higher string, so that goes back to kind of starting in a different spot. So instead of starting on the higher notes, starting on the lower notes and running it up, and again using that same pattern, you can kind of apply that in different places within the scale. Spread it out a little bit. different strings all within the same scale. So a lot of it is just finding the different pattern stuff. Now, usually within the song, I'll try to find some decent melodies in there that are more like a singing part, because I do try to have at least a little bit of a slow part in the solo. But for the riff portions of it, that's the quick parts. That's going to be the main approach, is just adjusting the patterns mainly. Listening to a lot of different guitar players, changing up the patterns. Try not to repeat yourself. That's really the best way to do it. Anyway, appreciate y'all for checking out the video. Don't forget to go and check out all my music, streaming and available for purchase everywhere. Follow me on social media at the Matt Massey on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Like and subscribe here on YouTube, and we'll see you guys next time.